Kia ora, good afternoon. Okay, the Florence Beauty Salon murders in Montana. I'll put links in the description box below. The 3 women that were murdered in the beauty salon in Montana. I don't even know where to begin with this one. When I was listening to the story, it's obvious that it was drug related, and I just keep thinking this whole time. What I kept picking up on, and to do with the murders in the bakery as well. I'll put links in the description box below, and I'm not skimming past the details of the victims or dates or times or anything like that, but the way I see it is that it's more important that I get this information out there than present all the facts, when all the facts are going to be in the links in the description box below. While I have a ping, it's important that I get these things out immediately, and that will often mean skimming past names and dates and that sort of thing, because those are facts that are already known. Now, with these murders, with the salon murders, the 3 women, they had their throats cut. They were bleed to death. And the witnesses were seeing the man in the suit, and that he looked out of place and odd, because he either had like a fedora on, or he was dressed odd for someone young and of that time, which is one of the biggest clues. The fact as well that he went out of his way to hide the way he looked and where he was picked up from gives all the indications that he was known to the area. Everything points to the fact that people in the area could have identified him, and he was trying to hide his identity. People were arrested eventually and charged, but charges were dropped in connection with small-time drug dealing, methamphetamine deals, that sort of thing. Now, the interesting thing is, the people who were arrested in connection to these murders, the charges were dropped, and they ended up serving time for methamphetamine and drug trafficking, which is interesting, because then, not long after these murders and the years leading up to it, Mexican drug cartels were investigated and arrested and sentenced, and the whole area of that, that region is known for the cartels and their drug trafficking. Now, I don't know why I keep thinking of this when I was listening to it, but I think I see his name was Brandon Lawson in another video, but I apologise, it wasn't Brandon Lawson, it was Brandon Swanson, who went missing in Minnesota, and I kept thinking about him while I was listening to it. And because I feel that his disappearance is because he stumbled into a drug trafficking, like he thought he was following lights to a building and ended up like stumbling into vehicles somewhere that were handing over merchandise, and he walked straight into it, realised what he'd walked into, and then it was too late because he'd witnessed things. It is more likely that Dorothy and these women, mainly Dorothy, possibly the woman who did the nails as well, I apologise for her name, may have witnessed something in their car park or in the area around their building, and so they were silenced to keep them quiet. A lot of things happen in car parks at night, and it definitely sounds like the nail technician and Dorothy were targets, and that the third woman was there, unfortunately, because she was a witness. They knew who did this. The small-time drug dealer that was arrested in that, in connection to it, he was known in the area. Florence in Montana has an issue with drug trafficking now, especially. In the years following the murders, the drug trafficking of Florence has actually gone through the roof, which tells you everything you need to know there. But I just keep thinking of Brandon Swanson. Now, where he went missing is, depending on where you want to look at it, when I did the distance calculator, between 15 and 19 hours distance between the two areas where Brandon went missing and where the women were murdered, which would be in line with, because Minnesota also has, and in the area when Brandon went missing, drug trafficking, methamphetamines. It's always methamphetamines. With the two cases, it's methamphetamines. And it is part of that route. It's almost actually a direct line to where he went missing to where the women were murdered. And I know a lot of people were saying, oh, maybe Dorothy had debts and stuff like that, but I think it's more likely that she witnessed something. And this was them trying to shut her up. Now, the other thing I keep thinking was the description of the guy who was seen leaving the building. And the way that the women were killed was very odd. It does scream like cartel, but that kind of way to take out old ladies is sending a message. And exsanguination, like of the throat and getting the blood out, and that can be ritualistic in itself. And for that man that they saw leaving the building, I just keep thinking of, oh gosh, I can't remember the name. It's not Pulp Fiction. What is that Quentin Tarantino movie? Is it I can't say that word. Reservoir Dogs, is it, where it's like Mr. Black, Mr. Pink, Mr. Blah, Mr. Grey, Mr. Blue, Mr. whatever, and they all wore those suits, and whoever did it was trying to impress someone, like he thought he was a hitman, like he thought he was some big time gangster hitman. And he was trying to impress someone. Now, if it was one of the local drug dealers who ended up doing a deal with the feds in order for, look, we'll drop the murder charges against these women if you hand us the cartels, because that's kind of where it's starting to point. That kind of looks like where it's going. Then this small-time person who was known by the locals, who desperately tried to cover his appearance, who was sent out to, shut these women up, especially if something, I'll go into that in a sec, especially if it was where the salon was in connection with drug routes or, drug trading, or where they stopped to pass over the drugs and that, and they witnessed something, then absolutely, I think he was trying to show off, and thinking he was like the big time gangster kind of guy, but absolutely going out of his way to make sure that the locals didn't know him. His wraparound glasses that covered most of his face, the way he was dressed oddly for his age, and the fact that the trail picked up his scent up until a certain point, meaning he'd been picked up somewhere else. When you're not known to the area, if I walked into that area and committed a crime, like, they're going to have a hard time describing me because I'm a complete stranger to them. I really wouldn't, obviously CCTV and all that, but what I'm saying is, compared to someone committing a crime who's local to the area, I really wouldn't have to disguise the way I look, because they're not going to know who I am anyway. They're not going to be able to compare me with anything. When you're going into an area that's unknown to you, you really don't have to spend too much time hiding the way you look, unless you have distinctive features. But when you're going in somewhere and you're covering your head with a hat and you're wearing the glasses and a long suit and a long coat, because this man apparently was very thin, so probably doing drugs himself, which this guy who was a suspect was. They say small time, but a lot of things happened in relation to the drug cartels and arrests in there after these murders and after these suspects were um, on the federal and law enforcement radar. He was definitely known. He knew their routine. These were people who he took two of them out the back to the stock room. These were people that knew him. They put up a fight, and then because he lured them away from the storefront and all of that, because he couldn't risk being seen. They knew him, and the way he dressed, he was completely trying to cover up his identity. Wearing suits and long coats and that sort of thing to hide the fact that you're thin, and the hat and the wraparound glasses and all of that says that he was known to those women 100% and to the area and couldn't risk being caught. Somebody else was helping him because of the fact that he had a car waiting. So they witnessed something, and I think they were silenced in order to be shut up. The other thing that I wanted to say was I've been trying to look to see what happened to the property after the murders, and I can't seem to find anything that had, like, what happened to the building now. It was a standalone building. It wasn't part of a plaza or a mall or anything like that. So the position of the building also has something to do with the reason why they were killed. It was a main road. It was like quite a main area, which if, it was interfering, them being there interfering with their stops and their trades and that sort of thing, they absolutely could have been targeted for that reason. But also as well, because apparently Dorothy had a contentious issue with someone in regards to the property. Could it have been to do with the property itself, getting her out of the way so someone could gain access to the property itself? Who owns the property now? What was done afterwards? Now, that's just like going off on a tangent. That's like another small area that you could potentially look at. But I think when you step back and look at it from a larger perspective, it definitely looks like it was because they saw things they shouldn't have, and they knew who it was, and this person had to take them out in order to protect themselves, and then obviously got caught under the radar and made a plea deal, and then all sorts of weird things happened with cases being dropped against them. People, it got as far as trial, but things were dropped for lack of evidence and that. But then they got done for methamphetamine trafficking, and then all these big cartels in the region suddenly started going down. So that's interesting. And it's like I said, I keep thinking about Brandon Swanson as well. And if you look at the map between where he went missing and where the murders took place in Montana, it's almost a direct line, like a almost straight across. And so I'm wondering whether the Brandon Swanson thing isn't connected in some way to the Florence Salon murders because of the drug trafficking, because that's what I reckon is why he went missing. I think that poor boy stumbled into some sort of vehicle gathering where he witnessed merchandise being exchanging hands, and so they had to take him out. Bless him. So yeah, I'm just throwing it out there. I should call my podcast not my 2 cents, but because I always keep saying I'm just throwing my hat in the ring. Throwing my hat in the ring. My 2 cents. Can't have it that because it's The Simpsons, but in my opinion, or just putting it out there, something like that. So yeah, interesting. I'll put links in the description box below, but I don't think they're ever going to, unless, yeah, I don't think the truth about this is ever going to come out, because of the fact that it was it looks like it was a small time drug dealer who helped take down bigger fish the government were after. And so it's possible that they said, look, we'll drop these charges, because apparently there was talk of like giving them the death penalty, and everything. But it could be a case of like they said, like, we'll take these charges off the table if you hand us bigger fish to fry. So yeah, again, it's just me throwing my hat in the ring. I might be completely wrong, but I just got to say what I feel and pick up. Anyway, I'll speak to you later. Ka kite anō.